Okay, Elaine, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, first of all, welcome everyone to our Walking Fellows Institute.
Yay!
Cynthia and I are so excited about this. We've been working for, 3 years to try and put something like this together. And we're really excited that all of you chose to apply and get to be our first participants, because from everything we know of you already, it's a great group, and we're really expecting and hoping to get to know you even more. Should I go ahead and screen share now, Cynthia, or should I wait?
Nope,
Okay.
Let's just go ahead. Let's just jump right into it, I think.
Oh, you need to enable me.
Oh, sorry, my fault. Yep. Okay.
Now I should be, okay, now I can. All right. There we go. So can you all see that? And for some reason, it doesn't want to go to full screen. There we go. How's that? Does everybody see that now? Good.
Good.
Yay. Okay, so as I said, this has been a few years coming. We got the idea a few years ago. Really think that it's a way not just to teach people about how to advocate more effectively for walking and biking, but also to offer the kind of follow-up help that we hope will make you even more effective. So today we have a really simple agenda. We think that the first thing we ought to do is get to know each other a little bit better, even though I think many of us do know each other a little bit. So we'll do introductions, we'll do an overview of what's in the Institute, what you'll be doing for the next 6 months. And then Cynthia will do that. Then I'll go over the goals for this module this month in May. And then we'll spend the bulk of the time really talking about the things that interest all of you in walking and why you're here, so that we can help us design the future modules to better hit on the things that you are particularly interested in. So we'll start with introductions. I'm going to stop screen sharing while we do this so that everybody can see each other while they're talking. But what we'd like is your name. I put these in 3. I put them in both places, it looks like. Your name, the city that you're from, your interest in walking briefly. Like I said, at the end of the day today, we'll talk more specifically about particular things that excite you about walking. So I'll start. My name is Elaine Clegg. I am the program director at Idaho Smart Growth. I've been at Idaho Smart Growth for 22 years, which sounds crazy to me. 24 years, excuse me, sounds even more crazy. I also serve on the Boise City Council and have been in that role for 18 years. So have long, for a decade before that at least, if not more, been interested in city design and how cities work and how transportation interacts with land use and how that impacts each of our lives as we try to go about our daily lives. So welcome to all of you. I'm really excited to learn more about you, and I'll turn it over to Cynthia and then we'll go to you guys.
Hi, everybody. Cynthia Gibson, Executive Director of the Idaho Walk Bike Alliance. I've been with this organization now, I think, for 11 years, which is mind-blowing. My husband has a car. I sold my car and bought him a really nice commuter bike, which he's pretty good about using, not great. But I have always been a huge walker, and I would love to see Idaho be a safer, more sustainable place overall for people who choose to not own a motor vehicle. And probably coming from your communities, you think that's a crazy idea. I know you live in smaller towns, but you have big barriers to that. And I would love to see us try to work on those barriers and change minds at ITD and local highway districts. So I feel very strongly about that. I don't know why it can't happen. And so that's what gets me going every morning. Oh, and I live in Boise. So Elaine, should we just pick somebody and then just kind of go around the room? Okay,
Why don't we do
Kaz.
that?
Okay, Kaz, you're up.
Hi, my name's Kaz Thea. I live in Haley, Idaho. I have been on city council. I'm currently the president of the Haley City Council. This is my 5th year, so my 2nd term. And I got into really caring about cities and wanting to make my city a better place. I think in 2011, I was with Mountain Rides in the position that Cece's in, although her position's expanded now tremendously, which is awesome. And I was the bike ped program manager at the time, and I was helping the city to try to pass this bike ped levy in the city of Haley. And I'm like, wow, I just need to be on the city council. What am I doing? So I eventually ran for city council, but we started with some great momentum with a grant, and the term that really struck me was streets are for people too. And I sing that tune strongly. I don't think our community in Haley, while I love Haley, I don't think our downtown is very user-friendly, nor is it very safe. And I want to take back our streets and make them for people too, and have them be a safe place. We have this incredible bike path. I'm staring at it now right outside my house, and people are riding by. But we didn't have great access from the bike path, the Wood River Trail that goes from Bellevue to Haley to Ketchum to Sun Valley, 22 miles or whatever. And we had very poor access into all the cities. And so we started building bike paths and pedestrian ways, and we've had great success. And I really want to keep that momentum fired up and going forward and make all of our streets bike and pedestrian friendly. So I'm excited to be here. Cool. Next.
Kaz, you want to pass it on to somebody else, and we'll just pass it around like that?
I will pass it on to Diane.
If I can unmute myself. Hello, thank you. I'm Diane Hairston. I am the Clearwater County Economic Development Director. I'm relatively new. I'm going to play the new card for as long as I can, but I've been doing it for about 3 months now. I've been in Clearwater County since 2005. I actually live up outside of Peck, which is I live about 14 miles away from Orofino. We live on a ranch. It's a one-lane dirt road into our ranch. I've always loved walking, do a lot of walking out there, but I grew up in the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley. They always had, the Greenbelt pathways for people to walk and bicycle on. And I grew up with that and used it a lot. And then I raised my family in Little Canyon, and my boys didn't really get that same experience of having a place. I mean, you can mountain bike on the dirt and rocks and everything, but I just like that idea, that community idea of having those pathways available. And the most fun places to be, if you visit cities, are those places that are vibrant with walking and bicycling. I visited San Antonio a couple of years ago, and they had a great system, it seemed like, downtown, and we had fun with that. So coming into this role, economic development, my predecessor started the Safe Routes to School program, and we have a city administrator who's also on our committee but not here today, who's very passionate about developing pathways and making connections in and around Orfino. So it's an exciting prospect, and I'm happy to be a part of it and support it and see what we can do. And I'll pass it on to Brenda.
I'm Brenda. I am the coordinator for Safe Routes to Schools. Originally, when I moved here in 2008, I had been working with early childhood. So I've been with Head Start, which gives me access to a lot of kids, a lot of families, and to that socioeconomic stat level. And our kids don't know how to, our community is, I would not say is a very biking or walking friendly community. And some of my families that I used to work with, you know, don't have a lot of money but they spend a lot of money on gas and vehicles that they really don't have. And so I would love to see if we could get some trails and, I mean, greenways and pathways and sidewalks and that kind of stuff going. So there's alternative ways to get around. I came from South Dakota, which is flatland, and we had bike trails all around and intertwined in our community. I mean, we could do the circle, plus you can go inside and outside and get to downtown. You could get to all areas. And so it was hard when I came back here because we all were bikers, and it was hard when we came here and there was not biking. It's not safe. You know, we're right on this highway, and it's from where I live on the side on Highway 12, off of Highway 12 to bike into town. Can be a scary deal. So our kids, we just had our bike rodeo, and some of our kids haven't even been on bikes before, just because they don't have places to. So we need to encourage the walking and the biking and just some safe places to do that. So, and I'm a walker. I've always been a walker and a hiker, so I'm into it.
Pass it on.
Yep. Oh, Patrick.
I couldn't find my mouse. My name is Pat Ricchetti. I happen to be on the board of the Idaho Walk Bike Alliance. Cynthia says she's worked for the IWBA for 11 years. I think I've been on the board since the early 20s. That would be the 1920s. Actually, I was raised in Lewiston as well. But this was in the days before all the levees were built and all of the green belt or greenway was installed on top of the levees. But I've been back since, of course, and really enjoyed riding on the top of the levees, basically. I live in Boise now, and my interest has shifted. Well, not shifted. My interest, when I joined the board, my interest was in the walking aspect rather than the cycling aspect, because I am a cyclist, but I'm not a commuter. I ride longer, or I used to ride longer distances. So my focus has been on the walking aspect of the Idaho Walk Bike Alliance. And recently, some issues have come up in my own neighborhood in Boise, which have been difficult, if not impossible, to catch people's attention. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to learn a little more about the kinds of things that Cynthia does to rattle people's cages and get things done.
You want to pass it on, Pat?
How about Mr. King?
Well, good afternoon. My name is King West. I'm with the City of Haley Street Department. I've been here going on 7 years. My interests, I work for the street department, so my interests are finding a happy medium between vehicle traffic and walking traffic and working within those ADA guidelines. And then that's really all I have, so I'll pass that over to Joel.
Hi, yeah, my name's Joel, and I'm an engineer. I do product development work. I live in Haley, and I guess moved to Haley in 1999, but done a lot of bike commuting mostly. I'm more of a rider in a number of cities, and I live close to town now, or in town, close to downtown, but I like to problem solve, and I want to improve our riding and walking too. I'll pass it on to Cece.
Thanks, Joel. Hi, everyone. I'm going to keep this brief because Isabel is actually going to be replacing me as mountain rides representative on this team, but I'm just here to hear the first meeting and answer any questions, help with the transition, answer any questions after the fact if they come up for her. But I'm with Mountain Rides. I'm the mobility programs and resilience manager, and I currently manage the Safe Routes program. I'm a longtime avid bike commuter and just in general interested in communities and how to make them more sustainable and healthy for everyone to live in and more enjoyable for everyone to live in. So broadly interested in planning and transportation. I'll pass it off to Isabel.
Hi, I'm Isabel. Like Cece said, I'm gonna be coming to these meetings to learn more. I'm interested in learning as much as I can about walking infrastructure. I live in Haley. I've been at this job. This is my 4th week, so I'm still learning. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm really passionate about the work that we've been doing in the community with the Safe Routes program, and I'm really happy to see other people that are excited about getting people walking and biking. So yeah. Oh, I will pass it off to Elaine.
Well, I've already gone, Isabel, but that's okay. I will
Oh.
pass it on to Emily.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Emily. I work for the city of Haley as well. I'm the sustainability and grants coordinator. I just started in this role in January. And I'm a big biker, walker. So I'm really interested in developing a system in Haley where we can get more people excited about walking, and how I want to do that in the safest way we can. Because I've had a couple of friends in the last few years get hit. So I'm pretty interested to see how we can make those two things work together. And I'll pass it off to Anne.
Thanks, guys. It's great to hear everybody's experiences and their enthusiasm for getting people active and outside and safe. So my name is Ann Lima. I'm actually a physician, a full spectrum family physician in Orofino, Idaho. So I live just outside of Orofino, and I've been here for a little over 7 years. And this is the most rural place I've ever lived, but the least active place. I would say the ability for people to access safe places to get physical and be outside has. I started a program called Walk with the Docs 5 years ago to start provide a safe, flat place for people to get some exercise. And so either myself or another one of my partners usually comes, and it's an hour-long walk availability. So we used to do it 2 times a week, and we've gone down to 1 just recently due to the availability of leaders like myself. So I have been, like last year I did an Ironman, and I trained for it in Orofino, where there's no pool, there is no safe place to bike, and very few places to run safely other than alongside the highway. So it has been very important to me to try and get this out there. I'd love to get people more active and use the quads God gave them rather than gasoline powered quads, and get people moving, keeping people healthy. and getting people outside.
I think that's everyone, isn't it? Well, wow, I love that. What great stories. And I think part of what we'll do with this institute, or at least part of what we hope we will do, is share these kinds of stories so we both get to know each other, but both learn, and also all can learn from each other and the experiences that we all have. So really appreciate you all sharing like you did. So I am going to go back to my screen. And so now we're going to turn it over to Cynthia to give an overview of the Institute. You've signed up for 6 months of being with us, so hopefully you're on board and okay with that. We'll have a module, kind of a goal in mind every month. Sometime during this, you'll be asked to do a community project within your community together. At the end, there's going to be a transportation conference, and we're hoping that you can share your experience with other people so that they can learn from you. Idaho Smart Growth is also going to have transportation conference is hosted by Idaho Walk Bike Alliance. In a month before that, Idaho Smart Growth is going to have a summit. So there may also be an opportunity, if you're interested, to either to share your experience there as well. And then finally, we're all here to support each other through all of this, and Cynthia and I are here to support you, along with our mentor, who we'll talk about here in just a minute. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia to talk about the modules themselves.
Hey, thanks, Elaine. Oh, good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that everybody can see this. I feel like it's been a long time since I've done screen sharing for some reason, so I think that might be it. All right, can you all see this? It's a Walking Fellows Institute syllabus outline at the top. Okay. So what we've done is we've picked sort of an area of focus per month. And so we've called those modules, and we're looking at 6 months. So it'll be May, June, July, August, September, and October. And so for example, today we're starting with why walking. So you had some reading and a video to watch just to give you an idea and get you started to think about why walking is important, and you know, ideas like a 15-minute city and things like that. So as we go through these modules, we will give you readings, we will give you some videos, and we will have a speaker come and present. Typically that person will present on the first meeting of the month, so the second Thursday of the month, and then we will all get together for a group discussion on the fourth Thursday of the month. But this month we decided for all of us to get together to kind of do some getting to know one another. Just because these are the set sort of focus of each month, it doesn't mean that we can't talk about other things and answer your questions, and as topics come up, we will, you know, discuss all of those ideas. And then Elaine mentioned the conference. We have booked the state capitol, which is where we like to have our transportation conference, for Wednesday, October 12th. So you might want to jot that down. More to come on that. And so the last 2 years we've had to do our conference virtually. We hope to do it in person this year, or maybe we'll do a hybrid. We just don't know yet, and you know how it's been, so we just have to be flexible. And just to sort of give everybody an idea of who's here. So we have selected 2 communities, obviously Haley and Orfino. We did invite Pat Ricchetti to join us. He does live in a neighborhood called Columbia Village in Boise, so that he can learn with all of you and provide input. I think having 3 areas like that, I hope will allow our discussions to be really interesting, and we'll learn from each other. But we'll see how it goes. And if we feel like we need to do things separately, we can talk about doing that as well. I think anything else I needed to cover, Elaine?
I think that was
Okay.
it.
Thanks.
All right. Great. Well, next we're going to talk about the first module, which is what we're starting today. And the first thing I want to do is remind you all that we all like to have fun while we learn. So this morning I told you I was with 500 kindergarten through fourth graders, and I haven't had that much fun in a long time. And this should be fun because there is a lot about human interaction and human activity that we think makes life more enjoyable. And so I think I heard from many of you that you agree with that you're here in part because that activity is something that makes your life a better life, and you'd like to make sure that other people get that opportunity. So one of what you got before today was, as Cynthia said, those readings as well as the video. And what we're trying to do with those is begin the discussion about the benefits of walking, the typical comfortable walk distance that has been documented through research and transportation practice. Talk about that. Is that what you believe is the right distance or not? And then city design and walking, how those interact, because the way a city is designed really does interact. We've heard from both of you, both cities, as well as from Columbia Village, that there are things about the design that isn't working today. So hopefully through this module, we can help you figure out parts of what that city design could change to make it better. And then we're also going to be talking about how walking changed from pre-car to post-car. And are there lessons there that we can learn that could potentially take us back to at least some of the practices pre-car for those of us who do walk. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing again and again talk about those things with all of you, because we did give you those readings. So this is going to be kind of free form, but we would love to hear top of mind things that hit you from the things that you read or the videos that you watched, that you either think are a good idea that can help you, or something that you hadn't heard before and maybe you question and you have some questions about, or something that really struck a chord with you and you'd like to talk more about it. So I'm happy to let all of you can raise your virtual hand if you feel more comfortable doing it that way, or you can raise your real hand and we'll call on you. Go ahead, Kaz.
Yeah, I guess one thing that struck me from the TED Talk, and actually I got through the first TED Talk, and then the next one that opened before I shut my computer was the transportation commissioner in New York City. Did people see that? I mean, I didn't stop my computer right away, and she came up, and I've listened to her before. And I guess, the thing that really struck me, and it's kind of a little bit of a side to the things that were handed out directly to us, is that you need to try things. You need to try inexpensive stuff and just get to work and do it. And New York City has turned into this very much into this gathering place for people in their streets. They took their streets back and created places for people to hang. And I so want that in my community in Haley, because one of the things that I continuously hear from people that come through And I think we changed our highway from 3 to 5 lanes in the 70s, I believe. It could have been later. I'm actually not sure about that. Maybe it was a little later. Is that, wow, it's a pretty cute town, but where do you stop and where am I going to go and where's there a place to gather? And so people just whiz right through. They don't stop when they are coming into Haley, and with the intention probably of going to Ketchum ultimately, because that is more of the tourist town in our community. But we need to find ways to make our town more welcoming. And I think the first thing to do is to create space for people to gather. And from there, if people have a place to gather, they will fan out and walk or ride. But our town is small enough that they'll probably walk to places, right? And I think the two go hand in hand. And the message I heard from one of the videos was, you just got to do stuff and put paint on the ground, make your lanes smaller, build a parking area that blocks the pedestrian, that protects the pedestrian way that you're creating, so bikers and pedestrians feel safe walking and riding on the street. And there's a lot of things we can do with fewer resources and not make it permanent and try it out. And the resistance might turn out to be, wow, this is really cool. Let's keep this, right? And so I want to get to that point of that place of just trying stuff. And if it's temporary with barricades that you can move and take away if people hate it, or paint and you can repaint the surface if people hate it, then go for it.
That's great. I appreciate hearing that. Pat?
I have a question for Kaz. That's Highway 93 through Haley, isn't it?
75, state highway.
And 75 means ITD, right?
It certainly does.
So you know where I'm headed.
Yes, it's a huge barrier to accomplishing what I would like to see. Yeah.
Because King could do 1,000 things that the city council suggests, but if you can't get them through ITD, then you're out of luck. Is that correct?
Yes and no. They've said that they will work with us. In the end, they are very resistant and generally don't, even though they said they will work with us. It's your town. Kind of tell us what you want, but yeah. It takes the entire city to come together as a united front to talk to them, though. And I'm not sure that always happens exactly the way I would like to see it, quite honestly. And then all of a sudden, the opportunity is passed because the timelines are very strange with ITD as well. They're like planning years prior for implementing something this year. And it's really hard to meet their timeframes. That is another barrier to working with ITD.
And do you have a community-based group that has an interest in these issues? Or is it strictly governmental? I shouldn't say strictly.
Yeah, Mountain Rides is very interested. And I would say that that's a really good point. Maybe if we could develop, try to get a group outside of city government officials or whatever, that are real proponents of walking and biking streets for people too, right? That might really help. So maybe that's something that we should try to gin up, right?
Oh, I think that's a great point. Oh, go ahead, Cece.
Thanks, Elaine. Sorry, I'm only on my cell phone now on audio only. That's something that I've for the past environmental group, and I think there's potential there. However, the topics of transportation haven't really grabbed on. But there's a large contingency of largely, older adults who are retired and they have a lot of time on their hands and they're passionate about the environment and they get really involved in waste stream issues and clean energy issues. But carbon emissions, like depending on where you are in the valley and how you categorize it, first or second largest category of emissions. And Emily can probably speak more to that than me, but yeah, I think I would love to see the local environmentalists energized about transportation.
Great. So I'm going to move along because we want to hear from everyone about one thing. And this will be my mostly the last slide that we'll really work from. And that one thing is something about your very favorite place to walk. Why is it a favorite place? What makes it interesting? What would make it better? Is it something that you, if it's not in your community, is it something that you think you could replicate in your community? And what we're hoping is to help you figure out how to organize to make those things happen. So I think this prior discussion was really important because I think Cynthia and I both agree that one of the missing pieces around the state is that organized citizen voice saying, yeah, we really want this, you guys. This is something that's important for us. So hopefully we can help all of you figure out how to organize that voice, at least in your community. So I'm going to stop sharing, but we're going to go around again like we did the first. And this time it's, what is your favorite place to walk? Why? What makes it interesting? What would make it better? And let's start with, who do we want to start with this time? Isabel, let's start with you.
Okay, my favorite place to walk, there's the park when you go that to the left, like when you start going out Croy. I can't remember what the name of that park is, but it's really pretty. The
Lions
little,
Park.
there's like a little, yeah. Just, it's a bike path that has just a variety of different scenery. You go like through the trees and you go to the river and all that. And I just think that it's like just a great little spot where to recreate and stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything I would change about it, and I don't think so. It's a pretty cute little spot. Possibly just making, extending that little area. But yeah, it's a great setup. There's always lots of people out there walking. I don't know how connected it is to the, community, because you do have to go through Haley's downtown to get there. Like, for example, I live in Woodside, and if I wanted to get there, I'd have to cross that big 5-lane street to get over there. And I think probably the one thing I would change is just, making interconnecting the spots of Haley through walking a little more, because like someone mentioned earlier, we have the Wood River Path, which is fantastic. It can get you from Ketchum to Haley to Bellevue, but kind of just getting places within Haley's community and just connecting all of those things, finding a way to make that happen would probably be the thing that I would change, just so that we can get to all those little spots that we like to go.
That's great. So Joel, why don't we go to you?
All right. Yeah, actually, I agree with Isabel. The trails by the river, Lions Park, are one of my favorite places to walk. I love walking by the river down there, the Bow Bridge. But it's probably not the place I walk the most often. Most often is on east side of town. I'm commuting to the grocery store or to bike shops or other places around town, places to eat. And that's actually where I guess I would like to improve things in Haley, is making it, well, and one, I'm trying to remember which article it was, but they were talking about how if you want people to walk, or more walkers, it needs to be enjoyable. And I think that there's lots of things that we could do to make the walking more enjoyable in terms of interactions with traffic when you're crossing streets, and just like little curb cuts, making it easier to ride a bike, things like that, that would just make the whole experience more enjoyable. And I think we'd get more people commuting by bike and walking.
That's great. Who wants to go next? Diane?
Yeah, actually, Brenda,
I'll
I'll go after her though.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I think in general, when I think of where I like to walk, I do a lot of hiking. And so I have a lot of places that I hike and stuff, but in town, it's kind of difficult to find a place that's your favorite place to hike. So when I generalize it, if I'm going to say, okay, if I want to just go out and hike, and I also look at it in two different ways. If I want to go for a walk, if I just want to go for an exercise walk and enjoy the environment and the beauty and that, I want to go on a nature walk kind of thing. So it'd be like, in your wooded area, around your rivers or creeks, or a very aesthetically pleasing place. But if your walk is specifically for alternative transportation, if I want to because where I came from, I could do both. I could choose a path to actually get me to the town, to the stores, to the restaurants, if it's specifically to get me from A to B, then those are, I look at that as a different place. It depends on what my purpose is for my walk. If my walk is just to go and get some exercise and to enjoy the walk, I like to go to an aesthetically pleasing place. If I'm going there for a purpose as a mode of transportation, I want direct routes and I want connections to the community. I want connections to the services in the community, So
yeah,
it depends on what, my purpose is. And, or if where I came from, it was quite a bit bigger town. So we had a lot of paths through town. Here, when we come here and we have to park 3 blocks away to go down to the city park, that's not a big deal, but you walk on the sidewalk. But where we did come, we would walk miles to get to the city park because, whatever, and walk on good sidewalks. So it kind of depends on what your purpose is where I think of it, is what I think of it. If I'm going for a stroll and just want to go for a hike, I'm going to a woodsy river-ish area.
That makes sense.
Okay, so I said I grew up in the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley. My last work history was with the Idaho Department of Labor, and I spent time in both the Lewiston office and the Orofino office. And when I was in the Lewiston office, I had a walking buddy, and we would walk on our lunch break or breaks, and we could, the nice thing about Lewiston was our office was right downtown. We could go out the door. We could go within minutes be to the levee on the river if we wanted a scenic walk that was 100% safe. I didn't have to worry about cars and stuff. You could also loop around. There were bridges. The sidewalks were good. We could walk for a good solid hour in both downtown area, and you could go to any shop, or within minutes get to that scenic area. So great opportunities either way to just do recreational walk or to go get somewhere. In Orofino, not so much. If you want to go for a walk, you can get down. There's a small short path along the river. but it doesn't really go anywhere or connect anywhere. There's multiple spots like that. So very disconnected. And then disconnected to the other side of we have a river running through our town. So, and there's no connection, a good connection for pedestrian, for walking there. So my walking now, and I'm more of a recreational walker, is out on the ranch, which is very much different. You're walking through fields and on dirt roads, and that's kind of my walking now. But I would love to be able to, you're going to hear this over and over again, this group of people about Orthinos, that we're just so disconnected. And what Dr. Lima said was so interesting. She's right. It's like, we're in this beautiful place, and you would think there would be all sorts of that opportunity to be out like that, but there really isn't. I mean, you go out in the woods and hike around. There's lots of hiking opportunities, but not just walking.
Yeah, and I want to add on to it for what she said is, we have a short, 2-block, 3-block walk on the Crooked Trail. We have down at the city, we have a short 2-block around, go down to the city park, and you can walk on the little path there, but it doesn't go anywhere. It starts and it stops. It's, there's no play. Let's continue on that sidewalk and continue on and make that a continual path. So it goes somewhere. So it's
loops,
not, there's no
nothing.
loops. It's just start and stop after you walk for 10 minutes. It doesn't go anywhere. So, and I'm not talking going to a distance or going to a specific thing. I'm just going, you go over and you go back and you're done with it in, 15, 20 minutes, big deal.
Yeah.
It needs to continue on and like connect to someplace else and come back and make a loop or something, just this, it's not interesting. It's okay. We'll go for a 5-minute walk and that's it.
That's it.
Let's hear from King, because he's the streets department. I'm curious to hear about his favorite walk.
My favorite place to walk is probably in the woods where there's no people. So that's kind of a hard one. I do a lot of hunting and fishing. And
King, you're a little bit quiet for me. I don't know if you're a little farther from your mic.
Can you hear me now? A little better?
That's a little better.
Not sure. Let's see. So my favorite place to walk is in the woods. I do a lot of hunting and fishing, so I'm just generally out and about. And then just generally for work, I walk 5 to 10 miles a day. So, most of my walking is done around in the streets, in the roads, on the sidewalks. And I don't have an answer on how to make those better just yet. So I'd like to see, learn from you guys and see where I could go to improve on that information.
Thanks, King. Pat Richechi, how about you?
Well, I live, for those not familiar with Boise, obviously Boise is an urban area, but my subdivision is separated from the city somewhat, even though I'm in the city. So my favorite walks would be any of our extensive system of green belts. The difficulty with that, of course, is I have to get in a car to get there, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So as a practical matter, most of my walking is done in the neighborhood, which is flat and on sidewalks. The neighborhood is not very well designed for pedestrians. We do have good bike lanes, which are very well marked and which ACHD remarks or repaints every year. But the walking leaves a lot to be desired, I think, at least. There are very few intersections or marked crosswalks, I should say. Obviously, there are intersections, but Idahoans have bad habit of running over motorists or walkers, I'm sorry, even when they're in crosswalks. I just recently returned from Portland, where my son lives. And for any of you who are familiar with Portland, if you even sniff at an intersection, you have cars stopping immediately. And I don't know why that is such an issue here, but I've been almost hit at least twice crossing the street in this intersection. And so, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I would like to try to improve is the walkability of the neighborhood. Obviously, it's walkable to the extent we have sidewalks, but it's not really walkable in terms of, to use one of Elaine's favorite terms, in terms of connectivity. Have you heard of that, Elaine? I thought you had. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of this institute. By the way, I worked for the city, so Elaine and I go back a ways. Actually, we go back a long ways. She reminded me a couple of years ago.
We do. Thanks, Pat. Pat was one of the legal counsel at the city when I instituted a connectivity measurement in our development process. So he got to deal with that on that end of it. Emily, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah, my favorite places to walk are, we have so many single track trails that surround Haley. I love spending time out there. I mostly when I'm walking, I have my dog, so trying to get somewhere where she can be free and run are my favorite places to walk, and I think it's because I'm far away from cars. In Haley, I think it's challenging, as Kaz mentioned, that our main street is a state highway. I would really kind of like to focus on that, how we can make it feel more comfortable and safe to be walking on Main Street. I personally tend to kind of like take the alley so that I'm not on Main Street when I'm walking, even though there isn't a sidewalk there, just to be a little further away from that vehicular traffic. Yeah.
Did
Is
we
Kaz
lose
gone?
Leanne?
Yeah, I think so.
Darn it.
Yeah. Kaz, did you share with us where you like to walk and why?
I like to walk by the river or on any of the numerous amazing trails here. The Land Trust has done a great job for our community, protecting land along the river and creating pathways that a lot of people use, with beautiful bridges that go across the river. And then tons of trails. I also live right on the bike path, the Wood River Trail. And so I do walk on that, but I tend to ride on that more, ride my bike more on the Wood River Trail than walk. In town, honestly, it's not that nice for walking. I have to say, some of the trails that the Land Trust has created is technically in town, but walking to stores and coffee shops and restaurants isn't that nice in our community. I hate saying that, but I wish that more of us took to the streets and walked, but I don't see that much of that. People do ride into town. We have more access trails into town, but you just don't see that many people riding throughout town. And maybe partly because we're such a small town. But, when I brought the bike share program here, it was too small a community for the bike share program to really work. And it wasn't super successful. There were a few people excited about it, but it wasn't super successful. I guess I would like to feel more comfortable walking and even riding in town, and I want to get to that point where I do more of that, because I really don't. And also I think in our community, because we have so many trails, it's not like we have to walk in town, but I want people to get out of their cars. I want to keep more of the cars at home and have more people on bikes, whether it's EV bikes or, not, or walking, because it's better for our environment, and I want people to feel safer to get to that point. So yeah, we got to create that infrastructure.
Thank you, Kaz.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't unmute and try to share at the same time. Thank you, everyone. Those are all great points. So I'm going to let Cynthia just talk about what's next. This is a little bit about it. You've all talked about how nice it would be to be able to walk in town, and what could you do to do it? I didn't find examples in your cities, but this is actually Wallace, Idaho, where they did a big demonstration day on the streets to see what they could do to make those streets more comfortable for people to walk and bike. So I thought it was a great way to end the day today by showing this picture. So Cynthia, do you want to kind of wrap us up here?
Yeah, thanks, Elaine. I'd love to. And I have a couple things that I would like to say. First of all, the mentor meetings. So Deanna Smith, we've contracted with Deanna Smith. I think a lot of you know her. She was with Idaho Smart Growth, and she's retired. And she's a great resource. So she is going to be a mentor to all of you, and she's going to talk to you separate from us. We want that to be kind of a relationship where you can just sort of brainstorm with Deanna. She loves to do that. She's really good at it. She'll probably go visit your communities without us so that you can get a conversation going with her, and then we'll talk to Deanna. We hope that that will just be another resource of knowledge and information and ideas to all of you. I just can't, I have to talk about ITD for a second. I'm sorry, but I have to do this for those of you who know me. Both of you, your communities, Pat, you not as much, but you know how I feel about ITD, and we have plenty of issues with them, that they are a barrier. Let's just put this out there. They are a huge barrier. They are not going to want to do whatever it is that you do in your communities. And I hope that we can help you overcome some of that. We have a lot of experience working with them. It doesn't mean we're very good at it. Nobody's good at it. But we will work with you and figure out ways to work with them. I would recommend that you all find somebody in your local district office who wants to participate in this, not attending these fellows discussions, but we can send them the reading. When we come to your communities, we could invite them to walk with all of us, and let's see if we can't change some minds. So I am encouraging you, if you don't have a contact in your district office, you need to find somebody and work on that relationship.
I have a question, Cynthia. Okay, now that the elephant's out of the bag, what is the goal of ITD? What is the goal of ITD? Why are we having a conflict with them? Is it because we have two different goals, or what is it that why are we clashing?
Well, I'll answer this, and Elaine might want to jump in too, but I'm going to quote my friend Gary Toth, who used to work for DOT back in New Jersey. And he always said, The DOTs will be the last to come into modern America, and they will come kicking and screaming, and they will fight. Their goal is to move cars, and they get a lot of money. Their budget is big this year. They got a lot of money from the legislature, and their mission is to get freight through our state. And so they want to build big highways. It keeps contractors employed. You know, it allows them to go in front of the legislature and say, look at what we've accomplished. We've made this road even bigger so that you can save 20 seconds when you drive through town. Their mission is, they don't get any sort of awards or accolades if they make a community more walkable. So as a DOT, that's not part of what they do. Elaine, do you want to add something? You look like you do.
I do. One of the other hats I wear right now is the chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Services Committee at the National League of Cities. And in that role, we've been working really hard with the Office of the Secretary of Transportation, so Secretary Buttigieg, and his office, which includes Polly Trottenberg. And Kaz, I don't know if the TikTok you saw was Jeanette Sadiq Khan or was Polly, but Polly was also the DOT director in New York. And so we've been, I've had the opportunity in that role to meet with both of them, as well as Stephanie Pollack, who was the DOT director in Massachusetts for a while, and talk to them about this very issue. What do we do about DOTs that don't want to come along? And I can tell you that I think we have a moment in time right now, because of the three of them, because of the bipartisan infrastructure law, which both, by the way, both Senator Crapo and Senator Risch voted for the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I always remind them when I talk to them about it, that it includes the biggest amount of money that's ever been given to discretionary grant programs for cities and counties. And that's $39 billion. It's a lot of money. And I can tell you that Secretary Pete and Polly and Stephanie are absolutely committed to figuring out how to get that money out to cities and counties so that they can do the things that they know cities and counties will do that state departments of transportation will not. Now, having said that, you'll also hear probably from Transportation for America that we should not let DOTs off the hook, and they're absolutely right. Because in addition to that 39 billion, there's the biggest amount of money ever given to state DOTs also in this law. And it has the most flexibility that's ever been given to them as well. And so they can use every penny of it on highways and bridges and just widen them and pave them and all of the things they do to them. But they can also spend more than half of it on all kinds of other things. And because it's so much money, there's a real opportunity for even them to say, oh, we have more money than we can actually spend doing the paving and the bridges and all the things that we typically do. What else needs done? So I think we're at a perfect moment in time to push them for change. We also have an opportunity in Idaho because we have a change in the directorship at ITD for the first time in about, Scott, the new director, has been around for a while. Always, when there's a new director, should take advantage of making sure we build a new relationship with that person and not just assume that whatever our old relationship was is going to continue. So I'm as frustrated with ITD as all of you, but I'm ever the optimist. And I think there are just things, we're on the verge, things on the horizon that we haven't had in decades. I've been working since ICE-T first got authorized in 1998 on this issue. And we have not had this kind of opportunity in all of that time to make change because of the policy, because of the leadership, and because of the money. So And that's why it's so exciting for me that you guys are here today, because I hope that we can figure out a way to help organize you to help make this change.
I have a question.
Sure.
Has there been any research into like traffic reduction from walking and biking? You know, maybe like use that angle with ITD.
Which, say that again?
Have you seen
Oh, I see.
traffic
Does,
reduction?
right. Does congestion get reduced if there's more walking and biking? The evidence is actually kind of not the opposite. The evidence is that if you widen roads, it increases traffic. It doesn't give the traffic that's already there more room, because as you widen the roads, people drive more to fill up the capacity that they now see is available. And so our strategy for the last 50 years has been to widen roads, assuming that if we create more space for cars, that there will be less congestion, but that hasn't proven to be true. There's also evidence that if you create really good walking and biking facilities, that it doesn't slow cars down. So there isn't evidence directly that people choose walking and biking and it reduces driving, but there is lots of evidence that if you widen roads, it increases driving. And there's also lots of evidence that if you build really good roads for pedestrians and bicyclists, it doesn't impact the driving in the way that everyone predicts. People can still drive as quickly, travel time wise, through a corridor as they could before. They might have to drive slower during the travel, but they'll get through the corridor from beginning to end in the same time. So that's the evidence I do know, if that helps.
Yeah, and that is actually really interesting. I was taking notes. But yeah, if you have any like, I guess, documents on that, I'd be curious to look at them.
Sure. We can put some stuff together on both of them.
Okay, thanks.
Joel, that you bring up a really good point. So, you know, the readings that we gave to all of you, I put a bunch of citations on some of them. So if I would suggest that you take the stuff that we give to you to read and put it in a folder and keep it, because you never know when you're going to need a resource when you're talking to somebody. And so when Elaine and I give you these things to read and watch and stuff, I would put them someplace and have that be your folder. So when you get asked a question or when you approach ITD or whoever, you can go back and, you know, like we put stuff in there on speed, and we put stuff in there on the dimension of a person. And I've used that at the legislature, believe it or not. Like, this is how wide we are. And so this is why our sidewalks need to be this wide. And it's, so we're trying to give you information so that you can build a library of knowledge. And we will create a web page, and we will put everything there and give you access. So we'll have an online resource for you also to be able to find that stuff. So I just want to make sure, and as we have these conversations and talk about all these different things, that we can add those resources as well. Because there's a lot of really good research out there, and Idaho is a little bit behind. And so we can go to other places in our own country now, and we can find some really good stuff, and we can use it to help us with our cases. I also think, Elaine, that we should put some more information on the federal transportation bill into our resource library, and so that everybody has access to that. I can't remember what else was on that slide, so I don't know what else I'm supposed to talk about.
The monthly readings, which we've talked about. We haven't talked about the monthly speakers much, but we do have our first one lined up. Do you want me to talk about her?
Sure, why don't you talk about her? That'd be great.
So
I have to leave. I have something
okay.
at 5:30 that I have to get ready for. Will these stay to an hour? I know sometimes it's hard, but.
It depends, right? I mean, we made them for 90 minutes, but
Oh, they
assuming
are
that-
90 minutes? Okay.
well, we did 90 minutes, but knowing that most people have to leave after an hour. So
I don't usually have something right after this, but I do tonight,
Yeah.
so.
great.
Yeah, we made them 90, hoping that we can get done sooner, but knowing that an hour was pretty tight.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So our first speaker is a woman named Carol Cachadorian. She's worked all over the country, both in the private sector and in the public sector, on a lot of pedestrian and bicycle analysis and design work. She worked for Tool Design for a number of years. She currently runs her own company called Double Tilde. And in that role is really begun to dig into research on elderly walkers and bikers, especially, and I know I'm older Americans. I'm sorry, I'm using wrong terms. The term went away for me. And so she recognizes that if we can make places safe for people who are 80, they're more likely to be a lot safer for people who are 25 as well. So she's really been digging into that and digging into as well the environmental factors that make walking and a more enjoyable thing, that make the environment that you walk in a better place, all of those kinds of things, and how you interact with it and how that impacts you both from a health standpoint as well as other ways. So we're very excited to have her in 2 weeks to talk to all of you. And then the web page, Cynthia, we don't have it up yet, but you want to touch on that briefly?
We'll do our best to get that up as soon as possible. So I just want to wrap up my ITD conversation, say one more thing. Find somebody in your district to engage in this. Yeah. And then we can send information to them, because ITD is very much at the local level. So you'll have better luck working with your local office than we do at headquarters. So anyway, I think that's about it for today, unless anybody has anything else that they would like to share before we wrap this up.
The one thing I would say, when you find that local ITD person, let us know, because while we can't impact them like you, we can get them information. And and we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you so much. I have to sign off. Thank you. I look forward
Thanks,
to
Kaz.
our continuation with this conversation and information sharing and all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kaz. I think
Thanks.
that's it. So thanks, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to get to meet you all.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you all
Yeah.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Check it out.